The power of late wisdom, why life after 60 matters more than ever. After the age of 60, a person often believes that the most meaningful chapters of life have already been written. Society reinforces this idea by placing youth on a pedestal and treating age as a slow decline. But Aristotle would strongly disagree. For him, the later years of life are not a fading sunset, they are the period when a human being gains clarity, depth, and true understanding of the world. What takes decades to build finally becomes visible after 60, your character, your emotional strength, your perspective on the world, and your ability to recognize what truly matters. Aristotle believed that wisdom is not granted to the young simply because they are intelligent or energetic. True wisdom forms when a person has lived long enough to see patterns, consequences, cycles of fate, and the nature of human behavior. After 60, a person often begins to understand life in ways impossible at earlier stages. Not because the world changes, but because you have changed. You finally understand which battles were worth fighting, which fears were illusions, and which regrets were lessons. This is why Aristotle emphasized, the greatest value of age is not experience alone, but the ability to evaluate it. Many people carry experiences, but only the wise learn from them. After 60, your mind becomes capable of connecting the dots of your entire life. What once seemed chaotic begins to show structure, what seemed unfair begins to reveal a purpose. The anger you once carried softens. The mistakes you once feared become teachers. The achievements you once chased become symbols, not anchors. However, Aristotle also warned, wisdom after 60 must be active. It must be practiced, sharpened, and used. Many people reach this age and stop growing. They accept that life is quieting down, and with it, their curiosity, energy, and confidence fade. But this is the opposite of what Aristotle taught. The later years should be a period of mental rebirth, a time when you refine your thinking, deepen your relationships, and learn to live with intention rather than obligation. After 60, you are no longer driven by the illusions of youth. You see life more clearly, but the power of that clarity depends on your willingness to use it. According to Aristotle, the mind becomes stronger through reflection, conversation, and the pursuit of meaning. The world may slow you down physically, but it can elevate you mentally, if you choose it. This chapter invites you to understand, your wisdom is now at its peak, not its decline. Life after 60 is not an ending, it is a turning point. Aristotle's rule of clarity, the mind after 60 must become simpler, not heavier. As people cross the age of 60, they often believe their minds become heavier, filled with worries, responsibilities, memories, regrets, and unspoken thoughts gathered over decades. But Aristotle taught the opposite. With age, the mind should become clearer, not more burdened. The purpose of experience is not to accumulate weight, it is to create understanding. And understanding is simplicity. Aristotle believed that a wise person is not the one who knows everything, but the one who has learned how to separate what matters from what does not. After 60, you have already seen how much of life is noise, temporary problems, temporary emotions, temporary opinions of people who no longer matter. The mind becomes wise when it stops carrying unnecessary weight. Yet many people continue to drag their emotional baggage into their later years. They replay old arguments in their minds, hold on to bitterness, carry guilt from decades ago, or fear things that no longer threaten them. Aristotle would argue that this is the greatest barrier to late-life happiness. Wisdom cannot flourish in a crowded mind. Peace cannot grow in a heart filled with old storms. The beauty of life after 60 is that you finally have the freedom to choose clarity. You know who you are. You know what you value. And you know which parts of your life no longer deserve your time or emotional energy. Aristotle encouraged people to examine their thoughts with honesty and courage, asking a simple question: does this still matter? Most of the time, the answer is no. Clarity, according to Aristotle, is not simply peace of mind, it is the foundation of a meaningful life. When your mind becomes simpler, the world becomes easier to understand. You stop overthinking. You stop reacting to every external noise. You stop worrying about things that were never in your control. Instead, you begin to focus on what is essential: wisdom, relationships, character, the pursuit of good, and the cultivation of inner peace. After 60, clarity becomes a form of liberation. You no longer need to impress anyone. You no longer need to compete with anyone. You no longer need to prove anything, not to society, not to family, not to yourself. You have already lived enough to know your worth. And that knowledge frees your mind. Aristotle believed that a clear mind leads to a clear life. When your thoughts become simpler, your decisions become stronger. Your emotions become calmer. Your relationships become deeper. You become harder to shake, harder to manipulate, harder to disappoint. You gain the stability of a mountain, steady, grounded, confident. This is the second great truth Aristotle offers for life after 60. Wisdom is clarity. Clarity is freedom. And freedom is the beginning of true inner strength. The virtue of balance: why your strength after 60 depends on what you no longer chase. Aristotle taught that the greatest danger in life is not failure, but imbalance. When a person spends years chasing things that are excessive, too much ambition, too much pride, too much desire for recognition, they eventually lose their center. Before 60, many people live in constant motion, building careers, raising families, proving their worth, trying to keep up with expectations. But after 60, Aristotle believed, the true measure of a person is no longer what they chase, but what they finally stop chasing. In youth, imbalance often comes from believing everything is urgent. People rush toward goals, compete with others, and fear being seen as weak or unsuccessful. But at a certain age, the truth becomes clear: many of the things we once thought were important never truly mattered. Recognition fades. Money comes and goes. Opinions change. People who once judged you no longer play a role in your life. The world moves forward, but your inner world finally begins to slow down. Aristotle believed that after 60, balance becomes the heart of wisdom. It is the moment when a person learns to walk away from extremes and embrace the middle path, the place where strength and peace meet. When you stop chasing what drains you, you regain the energy for what fulfills you. When you stop fighting unnecessary battles, you gain strength for the ones that matter. When you stop attaching your value to external achievements, you discover the quiet confidence that comes from within. Many elders lose balance not because of age, but because they never learned to let go. They still chase control over things they cannot control. They still expect the past to change. They still argue with people whose opinions they should have forgotten years ago. Aristotle taught that a wise person recognizes the point at which effort becomes self-destruction. After 60, the greatest form of strength is the ability to release what was never meant to stay. Balance, in Aristotle's philosophy, is not weakness, it is mastery. It means knowing when to act and when to rest. When to speak and when to remain silent. When to fight and when to preserve your energy. A person who understands balance cannot be manipulated by fear or ego. They live with clarity, purpose, and inner calm. After 60, Aristotle encouraged people to evaluate their pursuits. What still deserves your energy? What no longer aligns with who you've become? What are you holding on to that prevents you from living with peace? The gift of age is perspective. You no longer need to outrun anyone. You no longer need to win every argument. You no longer need to force life to match your expectations. Instead, you can choose the balanced path, the path where your actions reflect wisdom, not impulse. Aristotle believed that balance is the essence of a strong life. When you let go of unnecessary pursuits, you make room for deeper meaning, stronger relationships, clearer thinking, spiritual growth, health, gratitude, and presence. These become the new sources of strength after 60. The world may see age as decline, but Aristotle saw it differently. Balance is the reward of a life fully lived, and after 60, it becomes your greatest power. The Art of Letting Go, Why Aristotle Believed Peace After 60 Requires Courage, Not Age. One of Aristotle's most powerful teachings is this: the ability to let go is not the result of age, but the result of courage. Many people assume that peace naturally comes with getting older, but Aristotle warned that this is rarely true. Peace does not arrive simply because years pass. Peace arrives when a person finally chooses to release what has been hurting them, distracting them, or controlling them. After 60, this becomes one of the greatest challenges. People hold on to many things: old grudges, painful memories, broken relationships, mistakes they still punish themselves for, expectations that no longer fit their lives. Letting go is hard because the mind believes that holding on protects us. But Aristotle taught the opposite: holding on drains the soul, weakens the spirit, and steals clarity. True wisdom begins only when a person learns to free themselves from the weight of the past. Age gives you perspective, but courage gives you freedom. The courage to forgive someone who never apologized. The courage to walk away from people who bring you stress. The courage to accept that certain chapters of life are over. The courage to stop comparing yourself to who you were 20 years ago. And the courage to open a new path even when the world expects you to slow down and disappear. Aristotle believed that letting go is not an act of weakness, it is an act of strength. It means refusing to allow the past to define your present. It means recognizing that your worth is not tied to your past mistakes or failures. It means choosing inner peace over unnecessary suffering. When a person reaches the age of 60, they have enough life experience to understand that clinging to the past solves nothing. But it still requires bravery to release it. The mind after 60 becomes powerful when it stops reliving battles that cannot be changed. Many older people waste years fighting ghosts, regretting choices they cannot redo, replaying conversations that ended decades ago, or feeling anger toward people who no longer matter. Aristotle taught that these battles exhaust the spirit. They prevent wisdom from growing and block the calm that naturally wants to enter as life slows down. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It does not mean pretending something never happened. It means accepting it fully, and choosing to move forward anyway. Acceptance is not resignation, it is the foundation of maturity. When you accept what cannot be changed, you gain control over what can. The moment you release emotional weight, your mind becomes lighter, your heart becomes stronger, and your days become clearer. This is why Aristotle saw the later years of life as a spiritual transformation. Not a decline, but a renewal. Not a loss, but a return to yourself. When you let go, you reconnect with the deepest parts of your character: your kindness, your patience, your gratitude, your ability to appreciate simple moments. You stop being pulled backward and begin truly living in the present. Letting go after 60 is not about erasing your past, it is about protecting your future. Protecting your health, your mind, your peace, your relationships, and your remaining years. The courage to release what hurts you is the courage to live freely. And Aristotle believed there is no greater gift in the final stages of life than the freedom to be at peace. This chapter is a reminder. Your past shaped you, but it does not own you. Courage frees you. And after 60, peace becomes a choice, not a dream. The power of reinvention: why Aristotle believed life after 60 is not an ending, but a second beginning. Most people believe that after 60, life enters its final stage, a period of slowing down, shrinking dreams, and accepting limits. But Aristotle taught something radically different: the later years are the most powerful because they are the most conscious. Youth is full of motion but lacks direction. Age is full of direction, but only if a person chooses to reinvent themselves instead of retreating into routine. Aristotle believed that life has two births: the first is biological, the second is philosophical. The first happens at childhood. The second happens when a person becomes wise enough to understand who they really are, what truly matters, and what kind of life they want to live from this point forward. For many, this second birth happens after 60, when illusions fade, when superficial goals lose meaning, when clarity becomes stronger than ego. Reinvention is not changing who you are. It is returning to who you always were beneath the noise of obligations, expectations, and roles that society forced onto you. After 60, you finally have the chance to live according to your truth, not the rules someone else wrote for you. This is why Aristotle believed that older individuals can achieve a deeper form of happiness than the young. Their decisions are rooted in experience, not impulse. But reinvention requires bravery. Many people fear change more as they age. They settle into habits that make them feel safe, even when those habits slowly drain their energy and passion. Aristotle warned that comfort can be more dangerous than difficulty. Comfort keeps you still. Difficulty keeps you growing. Reinvention demands stepping back into discomfort, not the discomfort of chaos, but the discomfort of expansion. After 60, reinvention can take many forms: pursuing a dream that was abandoned for decades, building new skills, starting a small business, moving to a new place, forming new friendships, or simply redefining your daily routine in a way that brings joy instead of pressure. Aristotle believed that the mind remains powerful as long as it remains in motion. The moment you stop learning, stop exploring, stop creating, you begin to shrink from the inside. The secret is this: you do not need permission to reinvent yourself. You do not need approval from family, society, or your past self. Reinvention is an internal choice. And it is urgent, because the years you have left deserve to be the most meaningful, not the most repetitive. Many people lose decades trying to live up to someone else's expectations. After 60, you finally have the right to live for yourself. Aristotle also taught that reinvention is the antidote to regret. Regret grows out of stagnation, out of the belief that it's too late to begin. But when you take even a single step toward a new direction, your mind gains hope again. Hope transforms your energy. Energy transforms your days. Reinvention is not a dramatic transformation, it is a consistent commitment to growth. Every small change is a declaration that life is not over, it is evolving. The most powerful truth Aristotle offered is this: a person is not defined by their age, but by their willingness to continue becoming. Many older adults underestimate the power of this idea. They carry wisdom that young people cannot imitate. They understand themselves and the world with a depth only time can create. This is why the years after 60 are not a decline, they are a chance to rise into your truest form. Reinvention after 60 is not a luxury. It is a responsibility to yourself, to your potential, to your future. The world may expect you to fade, but wisdom gives you a new beginning. And that beginning starts the moment you decide to grow again. Why Aristotle said that after 60, your mind becomes your greatest wealth. Most people spend their lives chasing money, status, comfort, and recognition, only to reach 60 and realize that none of these things can guarantee peace, clarity, or purpose. Aristotle believed that as people age, something extraordinary happens: the mind becomes more valuable than any financial asset. Wisdom becomes the true form of wealth, and those who learn to use it correctly become stronger, calmer, and more capable than ever before. Aristotle taught that young people may have speed, but older people have perspective. Perspective is more powerful than speed because it prevents unnecessary mistakes, emotional decisions, and wasted years. After 60, you have something younger generations desperately lack: a lifetime of patterns, failures, victories, and lessons that turn into a unique form of intelligence. This intelligence can guide you towards smarter decisions, deeper relationships, and a more stable future if you choose to embrace it. But many older adults ignore this gift. Society often convinces them that aging means becoming weaker, slower, or less relevant. Aristotle believed the opposite: aging reveals your highest abilities. The mind becomes sharper not through information, but through understanding. You begin to see what truly matters, what no longer deserves your time, and which opportunities are worth pursuing. This clarity saves you from the noise and confusion that trap younger people. The key is using your mind actively, not passively. Wealth grows only when invested, and so does wisdom. When people stop challenging themselves after 60, their minds begin to shrink. But when they continue reading, learning, thinking, solving, creating and conversing, their mental wealth compounds. Aristotle believed that the mind behaves like a muscle, it strengthens when used, weakens when ignored. The older you are, the more important this exercise becomes. After 60, your mind also becomes your shield. Financial markets can change. The world can change. Technology can change. But a trained mind adapts. A dull mind collapses. Aristotle taught that real stability comes from inner control, not external circumstances. When you develop mental discipline, patience, logic, calmness, strategic thinking, you can outperform people who rely only on physical energy or financial resources. This is why older adults often make better investors, stronger mentors, wiser leaders, and more thoughtful creators. Their decisions are not driven by ego or impulse, but by understanding consequences. They recognize long-term patterns. They avoid unnecessary risks. They stay steady when others panic. In a world that constantly changes, this ability becomes priceless. Aristotle also believed that after 60, your mind becomes your primary source of happiness. Not pleasure. Not excitement. Happiness. The kind that comes from meaning, fulfillment, and harmony. Younger people chase external stimulation because they lack inner depth. Older people can experience deeper forms of joy because they have the capacity to reflect, appreciate, and understand life at a higher level. The greatest mistake people make is underestimating the power of their own mind after 60. They think it's too late to learn, too late to change, too late to grow. Aristotle warned that this belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you convince yourself that you're done, your mind shuts down. But when you stay curious, when you ask questions, when you explore new ideas, your mind stays alive. Your mind at 60 plus is a reservoir of knowledge, intuition and experience that no young person can imitate. It is a lifetime distilled into wisdom. It is a form of wealth that cannot be taken, taxed or destroyed. Aristotle believed that those who learn to use this wealth unlock a second life, one guided by understanding instead of impulse, depth instead of noise, clarity instead of confusion. After 60, your mind is your fortune. And when you invest in it, it pays you back with peace, strength and purpose, something money alone can never buy. Aristotle on relationships after 60, surround yourself with what elevates you. As people age, they often notice a subtle shift in relationships. Friends drift away, family dynamics change, and social circles shrink. Many experience loneliness or frustration, but Aristotle believed that after 60, the quality of your relationships becomes more important than the quantity. Surrounding yourself with people who elevate your mind, inspire virtue, and encourage growth is not optional, it is essential to thriving in later life. Aristotle distinguished between three types of friendships: utility, pleasure, and virtue. In youth, people often focus on relationships of utility or pleasure. These are friendships based on convenience or shared enjoyment, which fade when circumstances change. After 60, Aristotle argued, only friendships rooted in virtue endure. These are connections where both parties strive for goodness, wisdom, and meaningful life. Such friendships nourish the soul, strengthen character, and provide emotional resilience. Many older adults continue to maintain relationships that drain energy, arguments with toxic family members, friendships based on jealousy or resentment, and social ties that demand constant compromise. Aristotle warned that these connections can overshadow wisdom, disturb peace of mind, and limit personal growth. After 60, the ability to choose your company wisely becomes a form of personal power. Furthermore, Aristotle emphasized mentorship and guidance. Life after 60 offers a unique opportunity to mentor younger generations, share experiences, and transmit wisdom. Giving guidance not only benefits others but also reinforces your own clarity, purpose, and confidence. Relationships rooted in teaching, listening, and mutual respect enrich life far beyond material gain. Aristotle also recognized the importance of self-relationship. The bond you maintain with yourself, through reflection, self-discipline, and acceptance, is foundational. Without self-respect and self-awareness, external relationships cannot thrive. After 60, cultivating inner harmony and a realistic understanding of your strengths and limitations enhances all other interactions. When you know your value, you no longer allow negative influences to dominate your environment. The philosopher taught that aging provides clarity in choosing whom to invest in emotionally. The distractions of youth, peer pressure, competition, desire for popularity, fade. You gain freedom to prioritize meaningful bonds. Friendships, partnerships, and even casual interactions should uplift, educate, and inspire. Relationships that do not meet these criteria should be approached with detachment, not resentment. Finally, Aristotle believed that relationships are mirrors of the soul. They reflect virtues, vices, strengths, and weaknesses. By carefully curating the people around you, you create an environment that nurtures virtue, wisdom, and calmness. The later years of life become a time of refined social intelligence, understanding who contributes to your flourishing and who diminishes it. After 60, Aristotle would argue, your social world is your ecosystem. Tend it wisely, prune what harms you, and invest in what elevates you. In this way, your relationships amplify your wisdom, reinforce your peace, and transform your remaining years into a period of deep fulfillment and joy. The Legacy of Wisdom, Aristotle's Guide to a Meaningful Life After 60. After 60, Aristotle believed that life's greatest purpose is no longer ambition, status, or accumulation, it is legacy and meaning. The later years offer a rare chance to reflect on the life you have lived, understand the lessons you have learned, and use them to guide both yourself and others. Legacy is not just about material wealth, it is the sum of wisdom, virtue, influence, and the example you leave behind. Aristotle taught that humans are naturally social and moral beings. We seek not only personal fulfillment but also the impact of our actions on the world. After 60, this understanding deepens. You begin to see how small choices ripple through lives, how words can heal or harm, and how your daily actions accumulate into something far greater than any immediate reward. The thoughtful use of this time becomes the ultimate measure of success. Wisdom after 60 is about discernment. Aristotle emphasized the importance of choosing which teachings, habits, and values to transmit. It is the moment when you can mentor younger generations, share your experiences, and cultivate virtue in those who follow. By guiding others, you extend your influence beyond yourself and create a lasting impact that survives the limitations of time and body. At this stage, material concerns often lose their weight. Money, possessions, or titles matter less than the quality of your thoughts, your relationships, and your contributions to life's greater purpose. Aristotle believed that true wealth is moral and intellectual, the richness of the mind and the goodness of the soul. After 60, cultivating these forms of wealth ensures that your later years are not just long, but meaningful. Aristotle also recognized the importance of reflection. Regularly reviewing your life allows you to identify patterns, correct missteps, and appreciate the victories and lessons that were previously overlooked. This process is not about dwelling on regret, but about creating clarity, balance, and a sense of completion. Through reflection, you can harmonize your past with your present and prepare a life that leaves a powerful legacy. The final lesson is about presence and engagement. Being over 60 does not mean withdrawing from life. Aristotle insisted that older adults remain actively involved, in family, community, intellectual pursuits, and personal growth. Presence amplifies influence and ensures that the wisdom accumulated over decades is not wasted. By fully participating in life, you model courage, curiosity, and integrity for others. Ultimately, Aristotle's philosophy for life after 60 teaches that the closing chapters can be the most profound. They offer a chance to live intentionally, act virtuously, think clearly, and leave a legacy that transcends mortality. Happiness, fulfillment, and meaning are attainable at any age, but they require conscious effort, reflection, and the courage to live according to wisdom. This is the culmination of Aristotle's teachings. Life after 60 is not a decline. It is an opportunity. Your wisdom, your choices, your actions, these are the true measure of your life. And when guided by virtue and understanding, your later years can be the most extraordinary of all.